There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned in to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Mr. Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
Hey, this is kind of an exciting little moment. I wanted to just take a few seconds to play out for the audience, because we are right here. We're at the 15-year anniversary of Darkness Radio. Can you believe it, Tim? 15 years.
In a way, yes, and in a way, no.
I know that feeling. In a way, it feels like it's 33 years, but 15 years come and gone, and we started our very first episode with the lead investigator of the #1 paranormal show on television. And here we are, 15 years later, ready to launch into our 16th year on the air, having a great time. And today, we have a guest joining us, Tim. A guest that is one of the investigators from the top paranormal television show on TV right now. How about that for bookending 15 years apart, huh?
That's pretty good.
Pretty cool. I like to think so, at least.
Oh, yeah.
My God, it just shows we still have a little staying power.
Yeah, well, that'll happen. I mean, to some shows. Other shows, not a chance in hell, but
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, the reason our guest is joining us is because on Monday, January 4th, exclusively on the all-new Discovery Plus streaming service, there's a 2-hour special Ghost Adventures episode, The Cecil Hotel. Now, Tim, I got to work behind the scenes on Ghost Adventures for almost 4 years as one of their location scouts. Mm-hmm. Every year, I would try repeatedly to get into the Cecil Hotel. And every year I was met with head-banging results. They just didn't want any attention. They didn't want this kind of flash and dazzle. They wanted to kind of try to get themselves out of the eye of this nefarious backdrop. And one of the last conversations I had is, listen, man, we have a hard enough time booking this hotel. The last thing we need to do is tell people it's haunted. And I said, but it is haunted. Well, yeah, but we don't need to admit it. And I said, but it's already out there. It's on every website in the world regarding haunted spots in California. And I said, wouldn't it be better to control the narrative a little bit and allow a team in that can investigate and put to rest some of the false stories and explore some of the real stories? And he scratched his head and he's like, I don't know, man, I think it would do damage to our hotel. And I said, well, maybe you should call the Stanley Hotel, or the Queen Mary Hotel, or even the Palmer House Hotel in Minnesota, and see how badly their images were tainted by having a paranormal show come in. And he goes, oh, did it hit them pretty bad? I'm like, no, they're huge. They get people booking all the time. And people are going to come there in droves. He goes, yeah, but I don't know if they're the right kind of people. And I said, wait, this is the Cecil Hotel with hookers, drug addicts, serial killers, right? And he starts laughing. He goes, I get the point, but we're trying to get away from that. So it was just this head-banging scenario for the 3.5, 4 years that I worked with Ghost Adventures to try to get them in. So when Discovery sent me this press release, I thought, my God, this is awesome. They finally got in. So stationed along downtown Los Angeles, Main Street, stands an infamous hotel with a checkered past beset by multiple suicides, murders, devil worshipping, and serial killers. Perhaps it is most known for the recent mysterious death of a young girl named Elisa Lam, who we've talked about on the show. Her body was found in the hotel's water tower without any explanation as to how she got there. and what might have happened. Her peculiar demise remains unsolved to this day, and the bizarre elevator surveillance video of Elisa Lam has fueled literally an abundance of theories, including that of supernatural forces. Well, now, for the first time ever, the Cecil Hotel is allowing cameras inside for an investigation of ghostly proportions in the 2-hour special Ghost Adventures Cecil Hotel, launching on Discovery Inc.'s new Discovery Plus streaming service. That begins Monday, January 4th. The special will be available exclusively to Discovery Plus subscribers and is one of the featured marquee programs launching with the new platform. We have links up for that information and more. And in the years we've done this show, Tim, we have spoken to everybody from ghost hunters. We've spoken to everybody from Paranormal State. We've spoken to everybody from Most Haunted and Dead Famous and Most Haunted, I think, out in England. We've talked to every paranormal television investigator possible, but there's been one elusive little red herring in this entire mix. The one we couldn't get, we got him. It may be because I have a stack of pictures of him in compromising positions that he finally relented, Tim. No. That could be part of it.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But as you know, Ghost Adventures now in its 275th season, Tim. I don't know if you knew about that. 275 seasons on the Travel Channel is back. They have got this great new special. We have talked to Zach Bagans on this show. We talked to Aaron Goodwin on this show. We've talked, of course, to Billy Tolley on this show. And when he was a part of the program, we talked with Nick Groff. But the one elusive member of this crew has finally allowed himself to be on the show with us. Jay Wasley, welcome to Darkness Radio.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Ted. How's it going?
Good. Well, thanks for joining us and have a great rest of the year. All right, Tim, that wraps up today's episode.
All right. Wow, another one down. Yep, that's great.
I didn't say we had him for long. I just said we had him. Jay, you and I got to know each other when I would do some of the guest spots on Ghost Adventures. Mm-hmm. And when we did the miniseries Paranormal Challenge.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, that was such a great time. And you were the behind the scenes guy. Mm-hmm. And doing quite a bit and really was somebody that the team could rely on. So, I want to talk, of course, about your journey. We have to talk a little bit about the Cecil Hotel. I know you can't give a whole lot of information for the special, but I want to talk about just how incredible this opportunity was to be able to go in there. But let's start with this. I mean, had you worked in other paranormal programming before Ghost Adventures?
Never paranormal program. I've always worked in production, TV, movies, commercials, music videos, that kind of world. Basically right out of high school, I just started doing it. And then I guess around the time, right before I joined Ghost Adventures, I was doing a lot of reality TV as a sound guy, as a camera guy. And literally one day, the production company that does all the logistics and everything for the show reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have a gig for you if you want to come out and do sound." And at first I just thought it was a gig, just a regular kind of sound gig. And they flew me out to Vegas, drove out into the desert, out to a little town called Goldfield, and went out and discovered this place called the Goldfield Hotel. And that was the first episode I ever worked on. At first I thought, I was like, all right, that was a great experience. The guys were really nice. I had a great time, but it's production. It's just another gig, and thought that's all it would be. And then they called me back, and, over, a little bit of time, and being such a small crew, we don't have, large crew. We don't have producers telling us what to do, things like that we became close friends. And I started working regularly full time as their sound guy, and, becoming friends, I started throwing ideas out to Zach and saying, hey, you guys could do an analysis like this or an experiment like this. And he's like, well, why don't you do that? And then I was like, oh, okay, sure. And I started to slowly kind of transition to being a little more in front of the camera and being involved in little specialty experiments and things. And it kind of just kept growing and evolving from there into where I'm at today.
Now, had you had a belief in the paranormal before you started working on Ghost Adventures?
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the coolest things. And, we always kind of talk about it together, the four of us, how like there's these weird things that have brought us together. And, we feel like there's like this weird meant to be kind of vibe with it all. And I did, as a kid, I was really into it. I explored a lot of different belief systems, a lot of different religions, things. I was a geek for knowledge. I just like to study and try to read as many things as I could and learn about the unknown and myths and all kinds of stuff. And I was really into it as a kid. And as you get older, you kind of real life kicks in and you kind of stray away a little bit and you get distracted by paying the bills and stuff. And so then when, I got called to work on the show, it was just like this natural feeling that I was like, yeah, this feels great. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm into this stuff. I believe this stuff, and I was welcomed with open arms, which was great as well.
When you go in and you already kind of, have a fascination with the paranormal, but now you're working in audio, which is a big part of the show, right? You're in there, and it's one thing to go in and I give credit where credit is due on the Holzer Files, because you guys have to keep your back to the action sometimes. And that's creepy as hell. I've watched our camera and sound guys, as we're standing there talking and all of a sudden we're interrupted by the sound of footsteps. They're keeping their cameras trained on us for our reactions, but I can't even imagine, Jay, what is that like to start hearing something walking up on you in the dark?
Yeah, it's terrifying. Like, it's weird to the perception of sight versus hearing. And they're both, you see a spirit or a ghost or an anomaly, it blows your mind. But when you hear it and you don't see anything, it's like a different, it's hard for your brain to process it, and it's really terrifying. I remember actually that first episode that I went out to at the Goldfield. I was helping them set up before their investigation, and then I was going to head on home. And Aaron was like, "Oh, have you ever been here before? And you know about this place?" I'm like, "I have no idea." And he's like, "Go down to the basement by yourself for a little bit." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." And I remember I had my sound kit and I put the headphones on, so you can only hear, and it's almost like superhuman hearing, like everything's really heightened and it's pitch black, and I'm just walking around just kind of seeing what would happen. And I remember hearing the footsteps and hearing things dragging and moving, and it was absolutely terrifying. When you hear that stuff and you can't see it, it blows your mind.
Were there ever any times that you thought, you know what? F this. This is. I don't know that I want to keep putting myself in this situation.
Yeah, probably in the moment you kind of have those thoughts sometimes, but at the same time, it's a passion and it's a love. There's an adrenaline rush, and we've been terrified. I've been terrified so many times, but I keep going back for more because it's that desire to learn more. It's that desire to understand the unknown. And, we have an opportunity to be able to pursue this and experiment and try to figure this all out. And I'm 100% about it. And, it's not just a TV show. It's my life. And I get to speak for the other guys that it is our life. It's, it's not just for entertainment. Like, we do this because we truly love to do this.
Well, talk me through some of these first examples where you're in these locations and things start to happen around you. Because a lot of our listeners are believers, but they haven't had their own experience. Mm-hmm. And they watch TV programs and they're like, God, there's no way that's real. There's no way this is happening. Talk to me about that surreal nature of being in a place that the history, the hauntings, that you're not just going in to see grandma's ghost. You and the team, you guys are going in to deal with some of the darkest forces reported on the planet. What does that look?
Yeah, I think it is a tough thing to translate, I think, onto television sometimes for the audience. And I get it. And I still approach everything as a skeptic, and I want to document, I want to prove it. But it's tough. And part of it is a personal experience, like we try to share with the audience as much as we can. But I'm sure, you've had enough encounters yourself. I'm sure you're aware that a lot of it is a personal thing, and the experiences you go through and the feelings you feel, like it's hard, and we try our best to try to translate that to the audience. And I ultimately tell people, it's okay if you're a skeptic, it's fine, but get out there, try to experience it for yourself. I think some people, it takes that, discovering it and experiencing something themselves to truly be a believer.
Right. And I'm wondering, have you found yourself becoming more sensitive? I remember when we were filming Paranormal Challenge, our season finale, the final episode, we shot in Sedona, or not in Sedona, but right down the road from Sedona.
Up in, what was it? Jerome.
Yeah, Jerome.
Yeah.
Hotel. And I remember talking to you about how, you were really kind of keyed into that area. You liked the energy of it. You were talking to me about, kind of just all of that aspect. And it seemed like you were kind of admitting you were starting to become a little bit more sensitive to the experience. Was that, were you open to becoming more sensitive, going beyond just an investigator and beyond, a documentarian, and actually trying to become involved in the sensory aspect of investigations?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line to walk sometimes, and sometimes you don't want to, and sometimes you do. But I think ultimately, to be able to capture good evidence, to be able to, have those experiences, you need to be able to open up yourself to this, other world, to these spiritual energies. And, and I feel from doing it for so long, I think we've all kind of developed or opened up our senses a little bit more to be open to this, to be able to notice things. And you do it long enough. And I think, honestly, everybody that's on this planet has a connection to the spiritual realm and has the abilities to pick up on things, to hear things, see things, but kind of like what I mentioned earlier, regular life kicks in and you kind of get distracted from that stuff. And that's why they talk about a lot of children see spirits and things, because they're still so open-minded. And as we get older, we kind of lose that a little bit. But I think everybody has the ability, but we're so focused on it week after week that it has, I think, kind of trained us and opened us up more to be able to experience those things.
What to you has been the scariest moment, either on camera or maybe even in your personal life, when it comes to the aspects of dealing with the paranormal?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many. I don't even remember how many different random experiences. But one that was on the show that was just a truly terrifying moment, I remember, was in an old saloon in Prescott, Arizona. And I was in a crawl space by myself where they were claiming this evil entity kind of resided and would come out. And I'm crawling around, and it's a small crawl space, and I'm a big guy, and I'm on my belly crawling through, and there's nowhere to go, and I'm kind of taunting it a little bit because it's a bully spirit, and I felt, if this is an evil spirit that's hurting people, I'm going to stand up to it. And I swear something grabbed my legs. I start kicking. It pulls me backwards like a good 3 or 4 feet. You see me, I drop the camera, and you actually see me get pulled away from it, and there's nothing behind me. And that was terrifying because it was actually something physically grabbing me and moving me, which kind of brings everything to a whole nother level, that these things can actually interact with you in a physical realm. And two, I couldn't just get up and run because I'm in a crawl space. So that added a whole nother level of, just absolutely terrifying experiences. And I remember yelling and screaming, and I remember Aaron coming, and I could see him when I crawled in, probably a good 30, 40 feet away, and I saw him put his flashlight in, and I just booked it as quick as I could, crawling back to that opening, and got out there. And it took a while, really, and it's tough because in the moment, Aaron's filming me and I'm trying to explain what happened, but you're still coming down from the shock and the experience, and you're like, trying to explain just what happened. And it was tough. And, I think it kind of took a while to settle in, what really just happened. And, even just watching the footage again afterwards to be like, wow, yeah, like what I thought and what I experienced and what I felt, like you could see it happening on camera. And even to this day, I still think about that, and kind of, it's still one of those things where I'm just like, all right, I wish I could explain that. I wish I could debunk that. That's one that I wish I could figure out how that could have possibly happened, but there's no logical explanation that I've ever been able to come to.
Well, I got to agree with you on that. I mean, when something, watching TV, you have that, you have that kind of curtain of comfort that you're spatially separated
right.
from experience. You can be weirded out and roll your eyes and scoff or whatever you want, but when it happens to you, I know in the first episode I filmed of Holzer Files getting knocked on my ass, I'd watched TV shows. I'd seen people be touched and scratched and bumped. I've been good friends with the Ghost Adventures since their, beginnings. And as much as you love the guys, it's like, until I have this experience myself, you're always still wondering in the back of your mind, how legitimate is this? And when it happens, did you struggle with that for quite a while? It took me a good month and a half to kind of wrap my head around physically being hit hard enough to be knocked on my ass I couldn't process it, Jay. How did you get through it?
I mean, probably in some ways I'm still processing it years later. There's no simple way to just be like, oh, that's what it is. Time to forget about it and move on. And I think it's something that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. And, for me though, it solidified the fact that, these energies, these spirits can interact with us in a physical way. So even though it was terrifying, it kind of almost pushed me further to want to understand it even more, to experiencing it again. Even though it was terrifying, I would love to have that experience again, just to kind of relive it, just to, because I want to know more about it. I want to be able to know how they do that, why they do that, kind of, the more we experience, like obviously we're always trying to get that holy grail of evidence to be like, that's it, this is it, without a doubt, 100%. But I feel every time we get new evidence, we have new experiences, it kind of almost opens up more questions in a way. And we kind of, at least with me, it gets my mind going. It pushes me to want to know more, want to learn more, and to experience more.
Understanding audio the way you do and how microphones work, how do you explain the recording of electronic voice phenomena to the layperson? Having done this for 15 years myself, I'm still not sure I really understand how these voices are being picked up on, because if they're in an audio spectrum that I cannot hear with my ears, how can I hear it on playback? You would think that it wouldn't be there, or it would be there, but in a level we couldn't connect to, because again, it's still recorded in that audio frequency we don't tune into.
Right, and it makes sense, and it's definitely a good question. And every microphone, every type of recording device has its own frequency range that it can record in. And that's the thing, that's still one of the things we're trying to explore and trying to learn. There's moments, like I said, we get answers and we're like, oh, we start narrowing down, that EVPs start seeming to form or appear in a certain frequency range. But then we'll capture others that totally, go against that. So it's kind of hard to say exactly where they always appear. But it's such a wild phenomena that, to be recording and there's nothing, and it's silent. And even sometimes even other devices, other cameras, other microphones don't pick it up, and it's only one specific microphone. And, there's different theories about it. There's no one true answer, but one theory I like to go with is that, the microphones work kind of on a magnetic energy level. All sound is frequency too. It's all waves. Everything basically is made of sound. Even ourselves, we are sound, because sound is, by definition, is something that's created through vibration. You strum a guitar string, it's vibrating, that creates the sound. Our vocal cords, we speak, or it's our vocal cords vibrating that creates the sound. And when you break down physical matter to the smallest component, it's a little vibration, So we're all actually technically made up of sound. So I think in the spiritual world, and whether it's leftover kind of energy that's just kind of lingering, and voices that have been spoken in the past, things that have been said, still kind of resonate in that space and kind of bounce around, and we're not able to hear it. But you have the microphone in the right place at the right time, it can pick it up. On top of that, the one thing that still always blows my mind is when it's an actual intelligence response. Like there's one thing to be, you hear "help me," for example. Someone was murdered there. They're yelling for help. It makes sense that their last words are kind of still resonating, the energy of that still bouncing around. But when you ask them like, oh, what is your name, or where are we, or, something like that, and you get a direct response that's actually answering your question specifically, that still blows my mind. And that takes it to the whole other level, that they're actually aware of us, and that just, the idea of the energy kind of repeating, that's easy for me to understand. But when it's intelligent, that takes it to a whole nother level. It's still, I find incredibly fascinating.
Here's another aspect, and I don't mean to throw you under the bus with these kind of questions, but it's you being an audiophile and understanding how these things record and work. How is it then that we can record these disembodied voices that we can't hear with our ear? But then there are times, and you and I know this all too well, where we hear a voice out loud. You've got all this expensive sound equipment. It didn't pick up on anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't even show up on the recording. Yeah, It's still, that's kind of honestly what makes it a phenomena, which makes it paranormal, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to the way it works. You're right. It should show up. If you put up 5 microphones and you're recording, theoretically, they might sound a little different in tone and everything, but theoretically they should kind of sound all the same. But they don't. These things pop up, which, I think what makes it paranormal and makes it, and I can kind of go into like breaking it down. When you get into digital, there's sampling rates and things. So like when you have a digital recorder, it records like pieces of the sound. It's kind of hard to explain simply, but like if you imagine like a piece of Swiss cheese, like that's the audio it's recording. Like it basically samples a piece of the real audio. That's why a lot of times, we try to experiment with actual, analog audio, like reel-to-reel machines or tape recorders, things like that. And obviously we still use digital, but I think in digital you only get a certain point. There's only so much digital can kind of reproduce and capture. And it's a fishing game. Sometimes you get great stuff, sometimes you don't. But you do lose a little bit technically when you digitally record.
What do you feel about bonding with your equipment? As strange as that may sound to the outliers, like the more I use a recorder and stick with that recorder, the better the activity seems to be for me. And then somebody could hand me another recorder and I can't get anything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that kind of lends into like a theory that, I think about a lot too, is your own intentions, your own perspective, your own mind. Like if, we're dealing with spiritual energies and things, I think we are all connected, you and I, the entire world. I think we are connected in at least at the very basic and energy level, so these entities we're communicating with and trying to, we're connecting. And even the devices we use, I think, you can have a connection. You can use it so much. You kind of create this energy and, you trust in this device. You believe in this device. It's going to work. It's kind of, the theory of manifestation, and thoughts and kind of positive thinking and things like that, where if you put it out into the universe, it's going to come back to you. So I think having, that connection with your devices and things like that can help. Do I know exactly how? No, I don't know exactly how it works, but I think it's definitely going to help. And I think any kind of positive energy, any kind of connection you have to something is just going to improve it.
I've got to ask this before we go to break, because watching Ghost Adventures since the original special, you can see how influenced members of the team have become by the spiritual realm. Whether you want to call it oppression, influence, or possession, there have been times that each member seems to have been deeply afflicted in a more physical way by the spirits. It's one thing, Jay, to know that there's this ethereal presence near you and you're getting recorded voices. But when you suddenly look into the eyes of Zach, who is in good shape, takes care of himself, works out, how strong the guy is. And suddenly you notice his eyes are just dead and there's somebody else kind of steering the ship. How unnerved are you? I know I've talked to him. There's been times he's cocked his fist back thinking, oh man, if this guy jumps, I'm going to have to hit him.
Right. Yeah. There's been a few moments like that. And it's very scary to see that, not only, are we on the show together? Like we're friends, these guys are my best friends. And, I've been working with Zach long enough and, I feel fortunate that I worked with him so much in the sound aspect and recording him talk that I know his voice. So I notice subtle changes. I can notice different tones in the way he's speaking, things like that. And then now for the last 6+ years, I've been filming him. So I know how he looks. I know his facial expressions. I know how his eyes look. And when you see someone that well look you right in the eyes and you actually can see them change, it's terrifying. And he comes at you. I mean, I remember there was a time when we were at Goatman's Bridge and he started choking himself and we were all kind of in shock for a moment, but I was like, no, he's hurting himself. And I stopped, filming and I ran up and I was literally prying his hands off his neck. And, he ended up having a bad reaction to it and didn't, I feel he didn't know what was really going on. And he ended up tackling me on the ground. He probably thought I was attacking him. Who knows? But it was terrifying. And, you're right. He is a strong, tough guy, but at the same time, I'm not going to back down. There's been a few. I remember in Demon House when we were filming that, and he came at me and it was the same thing. I saw the eyes change. It's so weird. The facial structure can even change, and then the tone of the voice. And besides that, there's this energy you feel that kind of comes off you. And and he came at me, and luckily I was able to kind of back off, and I kept yelling at him, trying to talk to Zach, kept saying, Zach, come out of this. I know this isn't you. And he eventually snapped out. To even just recently, the last investigation we were on, we were out on location, a couple weeks ago, and, he was there, and it just something passed through him. Sometimes it doesn't happen long. Sometimes it's real quick, but I saw it happen. I could sense it, and you feel it. It's a weird to explain, but you can feel that energy. It's kind of like when you're in a room and you think there's no one else there, but you can kind of just feel that there's someone in the corner, or kind of like that. And then you kind of feel like someone else just suddenly shows up, and it's scary every time. And, but like I said, they're all my best friends. We all luckily look out for each other and try to help each other out. And, unfortunately, we've been through these experiences, but the good thing, we've been through them, so we kind of know roughly, at least hopefully to this point, kind of what snaps you out of it, what kind of gets you away from it. And sometimes it's, literally dragging the person to the ground and pulling them away, and, kind of getting them out of that trance, that whatever it is, put them in.
Have you ever, advised any of the team members, hey, guys, maybe you need a month or two off from this? I've got to guess I know I worry constantly about Shane and Cindy, and especially Cindy. We're going into some places where there's some crazy ass activity. And I just wonder how long can the physical and mental handle this kind of overload?
Hey, I'm sure there's been times in the past where we're all like, oh man, I don't know how much I could do of this. This is draining. But I think it comes back that we all do have the true passion and love to do this, in between filming, and the thing is, we're always going too. So there's this weird, a lot of shows will film a couple months, do a season, and then they're off for a few months, but we just repeatedly shoot every other week for, the show's 12 years now. And so there's no time to kind of stop and reflect, to kind of re-heal. So we all kind of, I think over the years, have managed to find our own ways to kind of ground ourselves and get back to normal. But we still, every day, even when we're off, we'll text each other. We have group texts that, and a lot of it is honestly just joking, kind of just trying to make each other laugh, trying to make each other happy, and just kind of, it's I think it's our subtle way of checking in on each other just to make sure we're okay. And when things do happen, we do share it with each other. There's a lot of stuff that happens that you don't see on the show, and that's where it comes down that like I said, it is our lives. It's not just entertainment. This stuff has affected all of us, I think, in our personal lives, our relationships, all kinds of areas. And luckily we've stuck together, and we're always there for each other, and we definitely help each other out whenever we can.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Our guest from the Travel Channel hit TV series Ghost Adventures, Jay Wasley, investigator, with us. We'll be back with more right after this. Discovery Plus streaming service begins Monday, January 4th, 2021, and you can watch the new Ghost Adventures Cecil Hotel special. It's available exclusively to Discovery Plus subscribers and is one of the featured marquee programs launching with the new platform. You can get more information on Discovery Plus. You can do it by visiting discoveryplus.com. That's discoveryplus.com. All right, Jay, the Cecil Hotel, you guys finally get a chance to get into this place. For people that might not be familiar with this, aside from the Elisa Lam weirdness, what can you tell us about the hotel?
Yeah, so the hotel, I mean, it's a massive hotel, 15 floors, downtown Los Angeles. I forget exactly when it originally started. It was early 19. It was one of the first big hotels down in downtown Los Angeles. And apparently, even from the beginning, it actually started being talked about and called the Suicide Hotel. That even in the early days, it was a place people would go to when they're down on their luck, and they would commit suicide. And so it actually became known notoriously for that happening. So that's just, I mean, right off the bat, that's a bad way to start your history as a hotel. And then over time, it's just seems that area itself is just bad. It's right on Skid Row, right outside the hotel. There's homeless camps everywhere. There's, people walking up and down. It's sometimes at night and, certain situations, you kind of almost feel like you're in The Walking Dead. And, I feel for all those people, whatever got them to where they are, but it's a scary place in general. And then you have this massive hotel that's just been, since its beginning, just dark and evil. It's been a home to serial killers. Richard Ramirez actually lived there when the Night Stalker killer, when he was doing his killings in Los Angeles, he stayed there. They believe he performed rituals there as well. Another serial killer from Australia came over and was actually a fan of Richard Ramirez and basically started trying to copy his work. Was staying there as well. And then kind of the way the hotel was set up too was kind of almost, they had private rooms, but they also had like a hostel vibe. So there was always people coming and going, probably a lot of, unfortunately not, the best type of people. So I'm sure there's a lot of notorious things that have gone on that we don't even know about. A lot of, murders and rapes and beatings and things like that. It's just an endless, brutal history.
And with this Elisa Lam case, this, of course, is how many people began to become familiar with the Cecil Hotel. The video was kind of an online sensation of this girl who would step inside the elevator and she would push the button and she's waiting, the doors wouldn't close. She was looking around the corners as though she was terrified of something or someone. And no matter how she tried, the doors wouldn't close. She steps out and starts acting in a very peculiar way, almost like she's having a conversation or is being influenced, and then steps back in one more time. The elevator still refuses to go. She finally steps off the elevator, vanishes, and the door shut mysteriously at that point. And that's the end of what we know about her and her physical life. The next thing we know, a few weeks later, people that are staying in the hotel start complaining about the shower water and sink water tasting horrible and putrid and stinking, which is so disgusting.
Yeah.
Her body had somehow gotten into the water tower on top of the building and had been slowly decaying there. And people were brushing their teeth and showering in this water. That is so horrific. But that was kind of what started to capture the attention of people all around the world. Then all the veneer of all the other strange happenstance. They believe that the Black Dahlia stayed there, or at least had visited there more than a few times, and perhaps even her killer had been there.
It's like one of the last places she was actually seen, I think.
Right. So there's a lot to be said about this. You get a chance to go in, and I'm guessing we can thank COVID-19 for a few things, very few things this season, and some of them are the places that are allowing you in to investigate. And with that mentioned, it is Wednesday, the 30th, and I believe it is this Friday. You have a brand new episode. You guys also get to go into another historic site that I tried like hell to get into. I have tens of emails between me and Paulie Shore to try to get you into the Comedy Store, and we couldn't swing it. But I'm guessing with the close down, people are starting to loosen the strings and allow other ways of making things happen. So you guys get to investigate the Comedy Store this Friday on Travel Channel Ghost Adventures, which is awesome. So I want to talk about that. I believe you were with my buddy Jay Moore, was a part of that, and we'll chat with that in a second. But you go in with all of this knowledge of the hotel. Jay, how do you stay separated from expectations and just trying to document what happens, not what you're afraid or think might happen?
Right. Yeah, it's a tough line, and I think from doing it for so long, you learn how to separate that out, the hype and things like that. And a place like this, I mean, you can't get rid of the hype 100% because this is evil. It's inspired a whole season of American Horror Story. It's in our subconscious, but to be there and experience it, like, you don't even need to have hype to go to this place. You know, you could walk in probably not even knowing anything about it, and I guarantee you're going to pick up on something. You know, it's just, and I think one of the surreal parts, especially for me, and I think all of us probably, was that this place was empty. It's 15 floors, and we're going around doing our thing, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, you know, we hear footsteps running, we hear doors slamming, and it's like, no, this entire place is empty right now. Like, it still blows my mind. I'm still thinking about it, you know, and that's just the simple experience, not even the evidence and the things that we encountered. But, you know, like I said, just walking in there, there's no doubt about it that place, one, is evil, and two, has a lot of paranormal activity.
All right, you get in, you start to investigate a location like this. It's such a big place. How do you break that task down to make sure that you cover the most important elements of the story?
Well, we wanted to, we kind of broke it down in a few different ways. We wanted to, one, focus on the Elisa Lam story. So we spent a lot of time focusing specifically on that. Kind of, let's put everything else aside first. Let's just focus on one aspect at a time. So we focused on that. We investigate that element of it. And of course, while we're doing this, you're in a big hotel. Other things are going to happen. It might take you other ways, but we kind of broke it down into Elisa Lam. We wanted to focus on that. We broke it down into Richard Ramirez. We wanted to focus on his story, what he did there, while he was killing. And, you know, they say that they think he was doing rituals up on the roof, which is kind of a theory that developed. Could that have influenced what was going on with Elisa Lam? And the fact that Richard Ramirez created, you know, and spawned these copycat killers that, you know, would go there and try to like do these rituals as well. And, you know, so it all kind of loosely connects, but we kind of would split them up and pay more attention on each thing. And then we went through and we focused on, all right, what are all the documented deaths? And we would go to each room and, you know, kind of just broke down, you know, the research and broke down each little story we could find and focus on each individual element. That way we didn't just kind of run around, you know, free for all. But like I said, even while you're focusing on one thing, which, you know of, something else could happen and it takes you in a different direction. But that was kind of, you know, we went in and we kind of broke it down like that. We had to, because if not, it would have been just chaos. It would have been crazy, but it would have been, it's such a massive location. You kind of had to break it down a little bit.
Knowing this kind of activity, knowing this kind of dark nature behind so much of what had gone on there, you know, do you ever have this concern that you keep steeping yourself into these locations like a tea bag? Mm-hmm. You know, are you just opening yourself up to a spiritual ass kicking, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that crosses my mind a lot. And, you know, I tend to be a very, you know, relaxed, low key, positive attitude kind of guy. And, you know, when I do find myself especially after investigation, and I find myself in kind of a darker mood or down, you know, I focus on it right away, and I'll try to do whatever I need to do to kind of bring myself back, whether it's playing music, playing with my dogs, you know, going out and hiking in nature, or, you know, whatever it is, just to kind of reconnect and get myself. I'm hyper aware of that now. And, you know, there's been moments in the past where I ignored it and things build up and it kind of drags you down. So I think, you know, being able to stay on top of that right away kind of helps, you know, but it is kind of a long-term fear. And the thing is, we don't know, you know. I guess part of the experiment we're doing is the greater experiment of what is the long-term, you know, exposure to this kind of activity, this kind of experiences that we do week after week, you know. And it's the inquisitive mind, and, you know, I'm excited to kind of see how it plays out. But it, you know, I would lie if I said, you know, it wasn't a fear in the back of my head of, you know, what's going to happen, and, you know, at the end, and how it's all going to play out in the long run. But, you know, I think the excited part of me always still takes over.
Are you in a better place regarding the concept of death and what comes next after visiting places like this, or are you conflicted because you realize how many spirits do seem to linger? Does that worry you?
I mean, I argue with myself a lot, and, you know, part of me, I don't fear the idea of death, because I do feel there's more to this world. I know there's more to this world than what is kind of the norm. But at the same time, I do love this life. Whatever else is afterwards, could be great or could be rough, but I do enjoy life. I do enjoy being able this time that we have here. So, I don't want to lose that and want to make the best of it. So I think with doing what we do, and, I think it does kind of help because it does solidify the idea that there is much more to this life. So it takes the edge off of, the fear aspect of death. But then there's, I guess, the kind of the selfish side of just, I just don't want to die. I like life.
Yeah. There's that one aspect that's just hard to get past.
Right. It's bound to happen one day, and so it's, I always have the mindset that, it's best to kind of try to enjoy every moment we have. There's no guarantee. There's, every minute is a gift in some sense, and, it's up to us to try to make the best of it.
Are you ever at a place where you've been to a location that I don't want to go back there ever again? Zach, I don't want to be a part of that.
Not necessarily. I don't know, and it's maybe not the best. Maybe there are probably some that I shouldn't, but I honestly want to go back, even if it is dark. Even, like I mentioned, when I got dragged in that, in that crawl space, it was one of the most terrifying things, but I would go back. I would do it again, to try to understand it more, to try to figure it out. It's easy to be like, oh, I'm terrified of that and never want to do it again. But I feel there's so much to learn there. And like I said, I guess that nerdy research, wanting to know more side of my brain kind of overpowers the fear aspect. And, I think I would go back to any place I've been, obviously some with some reluctance, but I would go.
What is the weirdest thing that's happened to you that you guys didn't end up capturing on cameras, or something that stands out to you? I know I bring that up because when we went to the Stardust Ranch in Arizona, to do the Ghost Adventures episode, which seems to air every other week because people are constantly watching it and going, Schrader, I saw you on Ghost Adventures on Stardust Ranch episode.
Nice.
There was the scene when we were, it wasn't even a scene. We were getting ready to start filming. Mm-hmm. And Aaron Goodwin and I were outside. You guys were in that little RV. And I looked up at the sky. Aaron looked up at the sky. And at the same time, we saw this light move through the sky in an unbelievably strange pattern. And it was big. And we're like, oh, and Zach goes, what? We explained, and he goes, Aaron, tell me you were filming. He goes, no, dude, we don't start filming yet. Let's just look it up. And there are these moments you wish you could have caught because it was like a total holy shit moment for yourselves. What's something that falls into that category for you?
Right. Yeah, I think honestly those moments happen a lot. I remember one time, I think we mentioned it on the show kind of as an afterthought, just to kind of tell the experience, but we didn't capture anything, and we didn't capture the exact moment. But I remember being in a town in Arizona, and I just went off to we set up static cameras, and I went and I actually was starting to roll the cameras. So they were just starting to roll, and I remember walking back. And as I'm walking back, and this was like an old Western town, they have like reenactors, things like that around. And I remember walking up, and I see, just clear as day, a full-on cowboy walking across the path in front of me. I wasn't scared. I was just like, I was kind of annoyed, honestly, because I was like, hey, we're about to film. Why is there a reenactor still here? We're supposed to have this place to ourselves. It was kind of not even thinking paranormal at the moment. And then I go around and I get back up to our nerve center, and I say to Zach and the guys, I was like, hey, like, why is that worker still here? Like, all the cameras are rolling, we're about to start. And, he just walked from nerve center, like, is he leaving? What's going on? And everyone's like, what are you talking about? No one just walked by. No one was here. And then it kind of clicked in my head. I was like, oh, shit. Like, that wasn't a worker. That was something paranormal, And I was just like, oh, my God. Like, and then I think we rolled and we caught, like, the aftermath of when I kind of discovered it. But, like, that whole moment was just not on camera. And, like, it was just kind of funny because I didn't even think of it as a paranormal. I was just like, why is this guy here? We're trying to film. Come on, get out of here. So I always remember that as kind of a, I wish I just had a handheld or something with me that was rolling at the time just to try to capture that.
talking about the Cecil Hotel episode, which is a 2-hour special. It'll be on Discovery Plus streaming service as of January 4th. Again, I know you can't give much away about what's going on. We already talked a little bit about the history of the Cecil Hotel, but what can people expect? Is this unlike any other investigation you've done?
Yeah, it's a huge undertaking. Like we kind of spoke about how we had to break it down, and it's just such a massive location, so much history, and really it's a once in a lifetime experience. Like from what we heard, they're never going to allow this again. We caught it, due to the pandemic. We were able to get in there. They were closed down, but they're closed down and they're actually renovating. So they're redoing the entire thing. They're going to redo it all. They're trying to rebrand. They're trying to make it nice. So this was really the first and only time that they're going to ever allow this to happen. So it's truly a historic moment in the paranormal world, especially.
Were they noticing an uptick in activity because of the renovations?
I think they were. And like you kind of mentioned earlier when you were reaching out to them, they kind of were like, oh, we don't want that reputation, kind of things like that. And we weren't actually allowed to talk to the workers or things like that, but we kind of, without saying directly that we heard things, but we got the vibe that, everyone's aware of it there.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, let's talk about the Comedy Store. That's this Friday's episode of Ghost Adventures. Now, this is a crazy place, and it's funny. I when I talked to Paulie at the time, he was very non-committal to if activity took place there. He said, "I've heard a lot of weird stories, man. I get freaked out there sometimes." I'm like, "Oh, so do you believe in it?" And he would never really admit to me, Paulie Shore, for listeners that don't know, Paulie Shore, his mother, Mitzi Shore, owned and operated the Comedy Store until her death. And now I believe it's run by Paulie and his brothers. But there was a lot of that weird aspect. And he was very open to the idea. I think it was his brothers at the time that were kind of, throwing up roadblocks. But you go in, and this place has seen every major headliner in the world going out on this stage. What is that like for you? I mean, I got a chance to do a very small scale investigation of First Avenue in Minneapolis for a local TV show. I got to stand on stage where Prince performed, right? Where so many amazing bands came through, and you just can feel that energy. But comedy, that's a whole different thing, right? I mean, it's laughter, it's anxiety, it's all of that stuff kind of bottled together. Was there like a palpable feel to that location?
100%. You could feel it walking through the doors. I mean, even I was able to go there a few times and catch shows there multiple times, and I've always loved going there. It's a great spot, and you always feel it. And obviously when there's people in there and the energy and it's all going, you tend to focus and you feel the positive vibes, you feel the laughter, you feel the people having a good time. But you're right, with just the legends come through, these people that are bigger than life, their energy, I think that's in the wall still. It's there. It's always there. And a lot of them that aren't here anymore, you think like, oh, they had so much amazing moments. Like part of them would stick around and part of them would want to be there. You talk to comics and they talk about the Comedy Store as being the place. Like, even big comics will still go there and do little sets because it's just such a unique place on the planet that brings all these people together, and you feel that. And to be there when it's abandoned, I mean, it's not abandoned, it's still, operational. It's just closed down for the most part. I think they do like very minimum things now. But to be in there by yourself, kind of with, not the laughter, not the activity, you start picking up on other energies. You start picking them up on the other vibes that were going there way back to even before it was a comedy club. It was used to be an old mobster club called Ciro's Club, and there were stories from the past about people, getting whacked in the back room and things like that. And so who knows what kind of, full history that went down in there, and then the more we investigated, the more we started talking to different comics and things like that and hearing their experiences. And I was pretty amazed at how many people would say they would feel things and have experiences there.
Yeah, I know. hit Jay up, Jay Moore, one of my favorite comedians and became a buddy of mine a few years ago. I said, Jay, you're on Ghost Adventures. He's like, yeah, man, it was crazy. And that was, he wouldn't give me any more information about it, but that was enough for me I know he's very spiritual and has dealt with his own aspects of the paranormal. So to hear him really psyched about it made me thrilled to hear that was going to be taking place.
Yeah, Jay was great. And like we started, we planned to just interview him, kind of hear his experiences. And we ended up walking around with him and kind of, going from room to room. And as we were doing it, like I won't give too much away, but we started experiencing things. He started experiencing things. And it was really, an amazing experience to have us and Jay there as well, to be able to witness these things and to be able to, document it as well. And even same afterwards, we had I reached out to Jeff Ross, who I worked with him a long time ago on one of his comedy specials, and he came out, and same thing. He's like, oh, I always heard this place was haunted, and same thing. We just kind of started talking with him, and he did a roast. He roasted Zach, which was amazing and just worth watching just for that alone.
Sure.
But and it all started just kind of fun, like, all right, we're gonna hear your stories, roast Zach, but then it kept going. Then we started walking around and just things started happening, and then just experienced all this stuff with these these legends. Was incredible.
Very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that. What other cool places do we have to look forward to?
Oh man. Let me think. I mean, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we're kind of, I would say we're probably behind, because it's a tougher filming world, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Oh, yeah.
But we do have some coming up. I'm trying to think. Nothing's been announced, so I don't want to.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to.
But we are, we're still going. We're still going full time. We have a little break because of the holidays right now, but we're still going full time. We have a lot more coming out, and we're not stopping. We're not slowing down. We're pushing. And the one thing I've always loved about our show, and the ability, like the freedom that we have, and the ability that we try different things. Like we're always, every week in between filming, we always talk about, well, what can we try? Do we have any new experiment ideas, any new devices, any new things we can try? And like we're always pushing it. We're always trying to do different things. Sometimes they work great, sometimes they don't work, but we're always trying to evolve and keep it, pushing the envelope and just trying to document and figure it all out.
If you had advice for people that were interested in becoming paranormal investigators, a lot of people just want to do it like a hobby, like stamp collecting and, doing this. It's not just about urban exploration, it's going in. But what is your advice and maybe safety procedures you would suggest to people that are serious about getting involved in this?
Yeah, I'd probably say just become an accountant or doctor or lawyer or something, but I get it. I totally get it. I'm the same way, even as a kid, I loved it. I used to urban explore and I was all into it. So I understand it. And I think it's part of our human consciousness to want to know what happens after death, to explore and, just wanting to know the unknown. I get it. But I think, if you are going to do it, just don't take it lightly. Sometimes, people start off and they're just like, oh, this is just a lot of fun and running around in the dark and it's spooky and fun, which, yeah, it is, but it's also real. It can affect you. And, I've witnessed it firsthand in my life. I've seen others, it can really affect your life. And I think, you don't want to be doing it for years and have your life dragged down and then come to the realization that you need to protect yourself. You need to ground yourself. Unfortunately, I feel like I have. So I think from the beginning, just go in it protected. You want to open up a little bit you have to have that open mind to be able to experience things, I think. But, afterwards, being able to shut that down. And, I always tell people, it doesn't matter if you're religious, whatever you believe in, but just focus on that. If you're religious, pray, cleanse. If you're spiritual, meditate, do rituals, do whatever you need to do to bring positivity in your energy. If you're atheist, you don't believe in any of that, side of it, then, but you experience something negative and you feel yourself dark, paint draw, play music, go for a hike, do whatever you find in your life that, creates a sense of positive energy. Like, basically immerse yourself in that as much as you can, and don't let that negativity overtake you.
Is there a location left that is like completely on your bucket list that you want to get into?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, and there's so many. I think probably the top two I would say that jump up is one, the suicide forest in Japan. That's absolutely one that I would love to get out there and just experience that. And, and I plan to one day, whether it's the show or not, I will eventually get out there and just experience it at least. And then the other one, I forget, maybe I forget the name of it, but there's a church in the Czech Republic, I think in Prague, that's made out of human bones.
Ah, yes, the ossuary. Yeah, I've been out to Sedlak Ossuary.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I would love to get out there one day.
That is, the entire interior of it is decorated in human remains, and I've got photographs, video of being in there, and it is remarkable. I mean, it's powerful to see this place. The Sedlak, Sedlac, I believe, ossuary in Prague.
Yeah, I'd love to get out there. I remember, I went with Zach. We did a special called Netherworld, and we got into the catacombs under Paris, and it was just so surreal being down there. And I remember a point crawling through a mass grave, just literally a cave filled with human bones. And, and there's just something about that when you have that much, it's sad too with all the death, but just the energy. It's like a weird, beautiful moment in a way, like a beautiful moment of life. You kind of get humbled a little bit when you experience things like that, and you see and you come face to face with our mortality, and you kind of learn to appreciate life. And, just, I don't know, I love the energy of those type of places. So yeah, I'd love to get out to that spot in Prague.
Is there anything in the field that you regret now? I mean, dealing with the paranormal, are there things you wish you would have pushed a little harder for, maybe stood your ground, or something along those lines where, dealing with, I know I've just been doing 2 seasons of Holzer Files. There's moments now I look back at and I'm like, damn it, I wish I would have handled that differently.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we always learn more. We always evolve. We always learn things that work better than others. I wouldn't say I necessarily regret anything, because whatever it was, whether it was right or wrong, it's gotten to where I am today, and I'm happy and comfortable with where I'm at. So I wouldn't want to change any of that, kind of the butterfly effect idea. If that didn't happen, you wouldn't be where you are today. And I think even if there are mistakes, even if you do things that, might not have been the best way to handle it, as long as you can learn from it, as long as you can evolve and, better yourself from it, it's okay that it happened. So yeah, I think it's just whatever it is, just learning from what works and what doesn't, and kind of, pushing and pursuing the things that do work and trying to stick with that. I think maybe early on, there's moments in my life that I wish maybe I don't know. I don't know if it's even stuff you can, wish for, but like, I don't want to say I never wasn't, but like being there for people that, had experiences, and you're kind of like, oh, you'll be fine, and kind of, maybe being able to like hear them out more and trying to like be a little more hands-on with things to kind of try to help people. I mean,
not understanding. Yeah, we get jaded, don't we? I mean, you sometimes then people seem to be having, you're like, you'll be all right, it's fine, and you just kind of forget that it impacts.
Right. It's and it's not easy, and like we've been doing it, and like maybe it's a little easier for me now, but like I don't know where they are in their life, and I feel bad, and I love it at the same time that like so many fans reach out all the time, but problem is so many fans reach out all the time. It's hard to respond to everybody and do all that, and and I see there's a lot of people that are, hurt and are suffering, and part of me wishes I could reach out to all of them and respond to every single one and help them out and try to and that's I guess the way that I find that I can is by and thanking you is for shows like yours that talk about this stuff and bring it up. And you think luckily it's been around now, but for a long time before your show and our show and all that, like it wasn't something that people talked about, and I think a lot of people suffered silently with this kind of things. So I think shows like ours and your show and everything everyone's doing to make society comfortable with exploring this and comfortable talking about this. I think it's a very important thing because, a lot of people do suffer and, they're afraid to speak out. They might get, looked down upon, if you will. But, I would like to tell anybody that is hurting, like, you're not alone. I've been through things. A lot of people have been through things, and, you're not going crazy unless you are going crazy, but, probably not, you never know, but
I like that. You're not crazy unless you are crazy. Right. Yeah. And that's actually a big truism with this. I want to ask before we let you go, you get to do something pretty unique. You get to not only do the Ghost Adventures, but you get to do the Ghost Adventures Screaming Room, where you guys get to review past episodes, revisit them, kind of go in a little bit deeper. How does that impact you, getting that chance to reflect sometimes years after a case and kind of re-examine it with fresh eyes?
Yeah, there's some that are great because we're like, oh yeah, we did that experiment. That was awesome and totally forgot about it. And we should try that again. And then, hey, we're going out next week. Let's do that experiment again. That worked great. So it's nice to kind of revisit and be like, oh yeah, like remember things that we've done that we kind of forgot about. But on the other side of the coin, there's moments that, might have been really tough or difficult that, like I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, that we're always going where we don't have that time to stop and kind of reflect and kind of, if you will, if you're talking to a therapist and you get it out and you kind of face it and you overcome it, we don't really get those moments too much. So to kind of revisit these things, there have been times that it's like, oh yeah, wow, oh man, that did happen to me. And to see it again, it's kind of like watching a whole, like some really messed up home videos of our lives, and to be like, oh yeah, I kind of repressed that thought or kind of forgot about that because it was really tough. So it's tough in that sense, but I try personally to, like anything, even if it's a bad memory, to once again kind of learn from it and try to figure out, all right, it's okay. I'm all right. I'm still alive. I'm here. I'm kicking, like what can I learn from that? What can I take away from that and better myself, or, better, my investigation or whatever it is.
There was, obviously I've, watched, because I've enjoyed watching when you guys go back and visit episodes I was a part of. And, it's always fun to revisit those moments and see those stories play out again. There was one episode that really kind of jumped out at me. And of course, that's going back to the Washoe Club. And, confronting a loss that a lot of us lived through, with the loss of Mark and Debbie Constantino, who were very big in our field. When you get there, and you're investigating, were you kind of hoping that they would be there, or were you kind of hoping they wouldn't? I mean, in all reality.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I kind of felt like they would be at some level. I mean, they loved that place and that was like a second home to them. So it kind of was like, all right, if they're going to be anywhere, they're going to be here, and I think, it happened so quickly that, no one got to say goodbye. There was no closure. There's so many questions. It's such a unfortunate situation that, it's tragic and sudden that, and it's not something like we didn't see them every day, so it's kind of, you almost think like, oh, we just haven't seen them in a while, like it's kind of, you don't process fully what happened, so I think going back there honestly was kind of just for us, like obviously we shared it with the viewers, but I think it was for us. I think it was a way for us to try to maybe find some closure in it all and try to find some understanding in it all, which I feel like we did to a level. I don't think I'll ever get 100% closure to any person's death that you were friends with.
Right.
But I honestly think it was more of a personal journey for us. Like we felt like we wanted to go there and just to kind of see if we could reach out and like say goodbye to our friend.
You have that moment, of course, where you feel like you've come into contact. Mm-hmm. Kind of talk to me about that. It's one thing to go in and maybe communicate with the old miner right? And the old barkeep and things like that. But when you go in and you hear what you believe is the voice of your friend, that's something uniquely different and something we don't ever really see play out. I mean, how profound was that for you, and how deeply did it impact you?
You know, even now, just like honestly, like just chills just ran through me right now, and like my dogs are going crazy. But yeah, it was such a chilling moment and just such an intense moment. But it was, you know, at the same time, it was a beautiful moment as well. You know, it was, you know, kind of a sense of that there's some closure, that we know in some level, in some way, that, you know, she's okay, that she's there, she's aware of us, you know, like, I don't know. And I think it was a beautiful moment. I'm still thinking about it, and it's just, you know, it could easily bring tears to your eyes. But it was beautiful. You know, I wanted it, you know, if we went in there and nothing ever happened, it would kind of be disappointing in a way. But to be able to have that experience, I think, brought us some closure. That was the element that helped us maybe process it a little bit more than we have in the past.
Right.
And that's kind of what we were hoping to do. And, you know, like I said, it was more for us. It was more for our personal experience, not so much for television purposes, if you will. And I think we got that. And, you know, it's still, thinking about it, it's sad. It's a terrible, tragic thing. But, you know, to know that we, you know, were able to communicate with our friend, it's a beautiful thing as well. And, you know, it's an experience that I can honestly say, like, even though it was sad, you know, I loved it.
Well, it was definitely a powerful episode. I hope people will check that out and visit. For many people that still feel that loss and ache, you know, Mark and Debbie were good friends to the paranormal field for a long time, and to many of the different shows, and they were featured on Ghost Adventures, and I think they even showed up on a Paranormal State episode. They were on, Paranormal Challenge. They were a deep part of our collective, and that loss is still felt 5 years ago already. Right. Hard to believe.
Yeah.
But Jay, I'm glad that as we enter into our 16th year, we were able to connect finally, my friend. It's been too long.
Yeah,
and
talk to you in another 16.
I'll take that bet. Buddy,
right.
Congratulations on the continued success of Ghost Adventures. I hope that you and the team live long and prosper and are continuing to make people laugh and entertain them and scare them out of their seats with the show for many, many more years to come. Again, for people, Ghost Adventures Cecil Hotel launches on Discovery Inc.'s new Discovery Plus streaming service beginning Monday, January 4th, 2021. The special will be available exclusively to Discovery Plus subscribers and is one of the featured marquee programs launching with the new platform. For more information on Discovery Plus, please visit discoveryplus.com. We have a link for it on today's program. And we will also talk more in the future, I'm sure, with the team as the show progresses. But much success with the new streaming platform version of the show as well. And just to answer any quick questions, Jay, this doesn't mean Ghost Adventures is going straight over to Discovery Plus, right? This is just a special that's going to be over there. Exactly.
This is just special. I mean, we are in one way going over to Discovery Plus. You're also, besides the special, you're going to be able to watch every Ghost Adventures episode whenever you want. So you can just sit and watch Discovery Plus and binge watch, you know, all almost 300 whatever episodes we have right now. So that's all going to be on Discovery Plus, which is pretty awesome to be able to have it. You know, a lot of fans reach out and they're like, oh, when are they going to put something new on Hulu or Netflix or something? And it's like, well, it's all going to be on there and you can watch it all anytime you want. And I think
ad free too, I believe, for subscribers.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think it's not really that expensive. I think it was like something like $5, I think, with ads, but it's $7 or something like that for without ads, which, you know, honestly isn't too bad to be able to get what you do. And Discovery in general has some amazing shows, you know, across all their networks. Right. So I'm actually excited to be able to kind of have one place to be able to see all that. You know, and I'm sure we're going to, you know, push some more specials maybe for Discovery Plus, things like that. But no, we're still going to be on Travel Channel. This week it's a little weird because, you know, we're normally on Thursdays, but this week it's going to be a Friday night, which is just because it's New Year's Day. So why not start the New Year's off with
With Ghost Adventures.
Exactly.
Who can go wrong with that?
Right.
Jay Wasley, our guest. We have information about Jay and more on today's program guide. That's it for today. Tim and I will be back tomorrow. We swapped out days. Normally today, our Supernatural News Parashare. We're going to do that tomorrow and intertwine it with some of our favorite memories of the last 15 years on Darkness Radio as we launch into our 16th year on the air, our 15th anniversary tomorrow, right here on the best in paranormal talk radio. And it's not too late. Email in some of your favorite memories to Dave@darknessradio.com. That's Dave@darknessradio.com, and we will incorporate them. Or you can call our Voices from Beyond voicemail at 651-300-4977. That's 651-300-4977. Leave your favorite memories, thoughts, and ideas about the program, and we will try to incorporate them in tomorrow's episode. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. That's Jay Wasley. Ghost Adventures Friday this week at the Comedy Store. And then on January 4th, their special 2-hour program at the Cecil Hotel. Make sure you check that out. You've been listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is Darkness Radio.